Hello and welcome to Federal Flash. I'm Philip Lovell and I'm joined by Nikki McKinney. We have two stories for you today, ESSA implementation and nominations at the Federal Communications Commission. Let's start with the FCC. Nikki?
Thanks, Philip. The U.S. House of Representatives has officially left town for the August recess. It will return after Labor Day, while the Senate remains in session trying to tie up a few legislative priorities and confirm several of President Trump's nominees. Among those that the Senate confirmed this week were Democratic former FCC Commissioner Jessica Rosenworcel and FCC General Counsel Brendan Carr. The Senate also is expected to consider the nomination of Republican FCC Chairman Ajit Pai, who was approved by the Senate Commerce Committee earlier this week. Why are we talking about the FCC on a news program about education? You might remember that the FCC runs one of the federal government's largest education programs, E-Rate, which provides funding to schools and libraries for internet access. The nomination of Jessica Rosenworcel is particularly important from an education perspective because she's been a strong champion for E-Rate. She has also pushed to expand home internet access to address what she calls the homework gap, where students don't have the internet access they need at home in order to continue learning after school.
Thanks, Nikki. Implementation of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, continues to make headlines. In response to blowback for their responses to several states on their ESSA plans, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos announced last week that the department would change its process. Rather than simply sending letters to states on their plans, the department first will have 2-hour phone conversations with states and go over any issues that peer reviewers had. If states are able to explain some of the issues to the department's satisfaction, the department may not mention it in the state's official feedback letter, which would come out after the phone call. The new process seems designed to give states a chance to answer the Fed's questions about their plans before official feedback is made public, but some in Congress are expressing concerns. The ranking Democrats on the Senate and House Education Committees, Senator Patty Murray of Washington and Representative Bobby Scott of Virginia, wrote to DeVos opposing the proposed change and urging her to, quote, reconsider this decision that removes transparency and consistency in implementation of the new law, end quote. The letter goes on to say, we are deeply concerned that this decision will result in inconsistent treatment of state agencies, leading to flawed implementation of our nation's education law and harm to our nation's most vulnerable students, end quote. The letter requests specific information from the Secretary regarding the change in the procedure by August 4th. As of the time of this broadcast, the department had not yet responded to the letter.
Thanks, Philip. Ed held the first of these calls with officials from Michigan earlier this week. We'll have to see how the department's new strategy impacts the letters states receive on their ESSA plans. Also on the ESSA implementation front, the department announced the approval of the first plan under ESSA on Tuesday. Delaware, the first state to sign the Constitution, also has the distinction of being the first state to receive official approval from the department on its plan. Delaware was one of 16 states in the District of Columbia who submitted their plans by the first deadline on April 3rd. On the heels of the department's announcement, civil rights and education advocacy organizations sent letters to the education chiefs of the 34 states who will be submitting their plans by the September 18th deadline. The letter outlines state plan elements that are critical to advancing educational equity and that prevent schools from shirking their responsibilities to all children, especially groups of children who have traditionally been underserved. To access copies of the letters, visit the link below. That's all for now. For an email alert when the next episode of Federal Flash is available, email us at alliance@allfored.org. Thanks for watching. Federal Flash is the Alliance for Excellent Education's video series on important developments in education policy in Washington, D.C. in 5 minutes or less.